We're not going to have robot refs anytime soon, but technology can help shape the way we not only watch football and understand football, but the way the game is played, the way that it's officiated, the way that we mark first downs and touchdowns and out of bounds. We talk to a company that is trying to be at the forefront of those technological changes. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Adam Petrus on the show today from Zebra Technologies. They were down at the Senior Bowl. A lot of cool stuff that they do. Informationally, he explains how the tech works, what they're doing. There's a chip in the ball. Did you guys know that? We just found this out recently, that they have the technology to see where the ball was extended, where the ball goes out of bounds, all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to put Adam's feet to the fire on why we're not using it more, where we could find more applications and uses for this technology. And I want to see what he says. Before we get there, today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. I was up on the year. Won money on the year in the NFL. Very happy about that. Did particularly well in the playoffs. So let's go do some NBA. Can't wait. Money line, spreads, couple 2-tree parlays, some player props. It's gonna get wild because I'm gonna get nostalgic for the NFL stuff. So don't miss your chance to get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. We are here, Super Bowl Radio Row, Super Bowl 57, Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles getting set to square off on Super Bowl Sunday. I'm here with Adam Petrus from Zebra Technologies, and the Next Gen Twitter account set off a little bit of a buzz a couple weeks ago when they mentioned, oh, the chip in the football told us this, and everyone went, I'm sorry, the what in the what?
Right. Yes. Peter, first, thanks for having me on. Yeah, you know what's interesting about that? If you've been following football next-gen stats, Zebra Technologies, we've actually had a chip in the football since 2017. So it shouldn't have been a real surprise, but I know in a world of technology, it's like, wait a second, why aren't we using the tag in the football for first downs and going out of bounds and ruling a touchdown? And look, I'd love for us to get there, but there's a little more complexities behind it all, and we're talking about RFID, ultra-wideband technology, so there are some limitations to the technology, but we're in our 9th year with the NFL, and we just signed a 3-year extension, so we're excited with the evolution of where we're going, and certainly we're committed to working with the NFL, our engineers, other technology providers to get us to a point where the technology can help and assist in the placement of that ball or ruling of a touchdown, but we're just not there yet.
Without having to go into all of the RFID technology and all of that stuff, how close would you say we are to getting something like, okay, breaking the plane of the goal line is something that at least maybe that's the easy thing. And I'm a layperson, so I don't know if that's the easy thing, but how close are we to getting some sort of something that helps us with this technology?
We're close, but we're not that close. And
Okay.
I want us to get there. I do, because I think it's a great story to tell, and certainly the evolution of football. You know, you talk to Troy Vincent, Executive Vice President of Football Operations. He wants that to get there, but there's also this aspect of, you know, we talk about, you know, the sticks and the chains, right? It's kind of rudimentary for this old game that we're still, you know, we still have down boxes that manually have to be changed, and why not using digital? So I think we're going to get there, but, you know, the thing is with RFID technology, you know, technology is only as good as the technology is going to allow it to be, and there are some variables that come into play. So with RFID, if you get into a 4th and 1, 4th and inches, and that scrum goes right up in the middle, and you've got a lineman pushing the quarterback, right? So the thing with RFID is that it doesn't penetrate through water or large mass. And so what is the human body made up of? You know, quick science lesson, you know, you're mostly made up of water. And so when you have so many guys on top of each other, our signal on the ball is going to get degraded. And so therefore, the accuracy issue is going to fall. And that's where the NFL and that's where Zebra come together and say, look, it should be part of the tool set of evaluation, but you can't rely on it ultimately by itself.
I'm also wondering, like, you mentioned the down markers, for example. Like, I think it would be really nice to know as a coach, for example, is it 4th and 1 or is it 4th and 1.5 or is it 4th and 6 inches? And sometimes from the field level, that stuff is hard to tell.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think that is a great point. And where can Zebra Technologies in the NFL really advance those sorts of interactions and aspects of the game? That's one of them. I think that's an absolute great opportunity for us to have that real-time information from the press box and relaying that to the officials and to the appropriate folks so that they can let the coaching staff know exactly what they're looking at from a true measurement. So yeah, I think we're on our way towards that aspect. And I also think that when a ball gets kicked out of bounds, that's another area where Zebra Technologies and our real-time location solution tracking can help, because it's very rudimentary. If a punter shanks a punt, right, and it goes out of bounds, you'll see that official marching up the sidelines, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's waving.
Seems arbitrary.
It seems a little arbitrary, and it's like, is that precise? Like, we have technology that will help with it, and I think that's something the NFL may also evolve into the next season.
The other thing that I really like about a lot of the next-gen stats is the speed and stuff like that. Like, how has that evolved? Because it seems like all of a sudden we went from none of these statistics to like now we're like awash in these statistics.
Yeah, Peter, you know what's crazy is from one play in the NFL, it'll generate 260 different data points.
Wow.
And then the NFL takes that and they kind of filter through what's important. What can we tell a cool story? Certainly, you know, acceleration, max acceleration is a really cool thing. For example, 100-yard kickoff return, right? That's awesome. By the way, it was 137 yards. Max speed was 21.87 miles per hour, and he sustained it for 3.97 yards. That's fun. I think another cool thing that we can look at and kind of tell a cool story is de-acceleration ability. A lot of fast guys can also de-accelerate. What does that mean from football talk? It's like the ability to run a route, make a cut, come back, make the catch, get out of bounds. Same thing for defensive back. That can be the difference between getting burned and making the interception and a pick six. So I think some of the storytelling around de-acceleration and lateral movement is a really cool aspect to show you, how phenomenal some of these athletes are.
Yeah, right. So like defensive back, we call it click and close. How fast can they hit that back foot and redirect moving forward? You can actually measure that. That's one of those things that James Harden, by the way, in the NBA, he's got that great deceleration, and that's what allows him to start, stop, and do all those things. So that's really cool. I wanted to ask you about the combine part of this.
Yes.
Because that's coming up in a couple weeks.
Yes.
Again, this is hard, but like how close are we, and maybe this is really an NFL question, to just being like, why are we running 40s? We have GPS tracking data, like we know how fast these guys are running. I asked this question to someone in an NFL, that works for an NFL team, and they said, because the data is so inconsistent in college football,
sure.
How do we get there? How do we make this consistent?
A couple things. So I was in Mobile, Alabama last week for the Senior Bowl, and so Zebra is the official provider of player tracking and ball tracking for the Reese's Senior Bowl, now in our 5th year. What's so cool about that is the fact that for 3 practices in the game, we were tracking them with the same NFL system, and the scouts, the GMs, and the coaches were able to look at their playing speed and compare that to their current roster and be able to look at whether or not it's helping or hurting their draft stock. So the player tracking, I think, is a really awesome aspect of getting that evaluation and getting true apples-to-apples comparison. Last year, Tariq Woolen was at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. He ran 22.45 miles per hour. He's the fastest guy in the history of the modern age Reese's Senior Bowl. No winning touch got close to that this year at the Senior Bowl. But when he hit that top speed, it was because he got burned, and it was catch-up speed. He had to turn on the jets, and we often see that defensive guys are the fastest, defensive backs are the fastest, but if you go to the combine, Troy Vincent, spoke with him yesterday, executive director of football operations for the NFL, and he's talking about this reimagined combine, and there is a lot of debate about this job interview and things that these guys got to do, but at the end of the day, we will be tracking the combine, the international combine, and the HBCU combine, which is an awesome thing to give those guys that opportunity to perform. But look, that is an NFL question. I think that things are going to change, and now that we're going to be tracking it, you're going to get more of that insight about deacceleration, lateral movement, explosiveness, off the line, reaction time to snaps and things like that. So we're heading in the right direction, but yeah, you got to ask Troy if we're going to get away from the 40 and just look at playing speed.
Part of this too is about building a library, right? We've done 40-yard dashes for years, and so I can compare, okay, how fast is this guy in 2023 versus how fast he was in the guys in 2003 and whatever. So, like, this is again maybe an NFL question, but when will you feel confident that you can make apples to apples comparisons over time in terms of like how much data you would want if you were looking at your own data set? Sure.
Well, here's the thing, we're in our 9th year, going into our 10th next year, and it's been awesome actually for us to see like the evolution and the changes from Aaron Rodgers, from his initial airspeed to revolutions per minute, the spin rate, and then comparison to a Joe Burrow, right? And following Mahomes throughout their journey. So I'm here to tell you that our system's the most accurate player tracking system in the world. And so either if it's at the combine and over year after year, I mean, we stand by that data, and we do various things to make sure that we scrub it and it's accurate, or retrack and rerun it. So at the end of the day, I'm here to stand in front of you and say, look, man, the data doesn't lie. If we tracked it, that's how fast that player was going, or that's how far that kick went. That's how far he threw it. That's what the spin rate was, and you can take it to the bank.
All right, thanks to Adam for joining the show. Great to talk to him. I had such a blast on Radio Row. Thank you, everyone who reached out. Sorry we weren't able to do a meetup in Phoenix. I ended up leaving a little bit early on Friday. I planned to do it on Friday and then ended up, I wanted to be home to see my family. It's a long time to be away from your family, especially when you have little ones. So thanks to everyone who reached out and said, hey, would love to do a meetup. Thanks to everyone who reached out, who I saw on Radio Row. If you saw me and I saw you, or if you just saw me, I appreciate you. And so this has been an awesome NFL season. I'm really excited for what's coming in 2023, but I'm very grateful for what happened in 2022. Today's episode brought to you by the Ultimate Football GM. You've heard me talk about this game, and it's really a fun time, especially this time of year, because this is GM season. This is the time when you get to play GM for your own team. Well, now you can do it in a game setting where they're actually going to put your IQ to the test, hiring the right coaches, trading players, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft and the ups and downs of a season, all in this challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free, playable offline, play on the go, play as you want and when. We've created a Locked On League for you to compete against Locked On fans all over the world. Can you be the ultimate Locked On Football GM? Choose the Locked On League in the app to join and see if you can create a football dynasty. Locked On Packers listeners get up to 100% free boost in their franchise when you use the promo code Locked On in the game store. That's Locked On. Make sure to use all caps and check it out today. Ultimate-GM.com, or look it up in the App Store. That's ultimate-GM.com. All right, back next week. A lot more. Maybe we'll have an Aaron Rodgers decision. Derek Carr is being cut, so maybe we'll have a Derek Carr destination. A lot of stuff to get to. As of this recording, Derek Carr does not have a home, but by the time you listen to it, maybe he does. So we'll talk about all of that when the time is right next week. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to come hang out with us live, we'll go live when Aaron Rodgers makes a contract decision. We'll go live if the Packers make a trade, if they sign a big free agent. All of that on our Locked On Packers YouTube page, so you can stay Locked On Packers.